I'm Justin, and tonight we're going to be getting underneath this 1987 Chevy Corvette. We're going to be draining the coolant, the oil, the manual transmission, the automatic overdrive transmission, as well as the gear oil. Should be a whole lot of fun. Let's get started. Alright guys, so we're underneath the car now, and we're going to locate all the places we're going to be draining and refilling. We're going to start off, we got our oil drain plug as well as our filter. Those seem to be pretty easy to get to, right in the center of the vehicle. Then we got our manual transmission, takes 80 W90, and our fill plug, just up and to the left of that. Then we move backwards, we have our overdrive transmission, which takes ATF only. Sorry, it's upside down. So we're going to be doing the filter, the gasket on that, as well as refilling it. Then we move all the way to the back of the vehicle here, and we have our differential fluid, limited slip only. So we're going to be sticking a hose down there and sucking everything up, replacing it with some fresh stuff, and should be good to go. All right, so we're looking at the oil coming out now. Doesn't look super clean, but not the dirtiest I've ever seen. We have no chunks, which is good. Next, we're going to pop this filter off. I don't think I need to record that part. And then we're going to get to our transmission here, so I'll figure out the size for that. If you guys are wondering, our size here for the oil drain plug, at least for this guy, is a 9/16. Let's move forward. What a nasty mess. This thing's going to run great with some new oil. All right. Draining the manual transmission. It takes 80-90 gear oil. I wish I started this video a little bit sooner, but it is very, very clear and looks good and doesn't smell as burnt as I'm used to. So that's a good thing. Next, we fill it. So now we're going to fill the manual transmission. Today, we're going to be using an 80W90 gear oil. And we're just going to pump this thing full until it starts dripping. Now you can buy one of these pumps at most of your local auto parts stores. It's really convenient. You push down and it forces the fluid right on in. Now, just for the record, all of these drain plugs, the oil drain plug and the transmission and the fill plug, all 9/16. Nothing to it. I've used one wrench so far. Alright, she's looking full. We're going to put the drain plug back in and move backward to our overdrive. Looks like we got a whole bunch of bolts here. We're going to take these guys off. And it looks like we should be able to just pass the exhaust here. Should be nothing to it. So now we're draining the differential. So what I found is, doesn't look like there's a drain plug on this guy. So I'm going to stick a hose up there and suck whatever I can out and then refill it. But the good news is, I'm looking here and it looks like he wasn't low. I popped this thing off and started pouring right on me. So I have a drain pan ready. Alright, 3/4 hex got this baby out. I started pumping it out, and you can see this stuff is dark and nasty. I managed to somehow make a little siphon. Stuff that hose right in there, and it's letting itself out, which is pretty nice. So I'll probably hook the pump back up again once this thing stops dripping to get the last little bit out, but that worked out really nicely. Let's move. So after you get all that diff fluid out of there, you use a handy pump like this, just like with the transmission. You fill it right up through that same hole that you pumped it out of, and wait until you got a nice steady stream coming back out. That means we're all full. Let's keep moving. So while this differential is draining, we're going to start emptying out this overdrive transmission. We're going to swap out the gasket and the filter. Looks like we got about 12 of these little bolts that go around the edge here. Then we might have to hit it with a gasket scraper to get it off. So hopefully this goes easy. And there she blows. So I didn't get all the screws undone. I just kind of loosened up one side so that we can get all this fluid out. From here, I'm going to take the rest of these screws out, drop this pan, and we'll take a look at what's underneath. So here we have our new transmission filter and gasket for the Overdrive. Looks like it's just a press fit, and it comes with a new O-ring. So we're going to yank the old one straight down, and since this thing got a little bent in the shipping process, we're going to hit that with some spray tack to make sure that it's nice and flat when we put the new one back on and everything back together. So let's continue on. As you can see here, we have the old filter and we have the new filter. And as you can see here, it's not an O-ring. They gave us the wrong piece. But this thing's been soaked in trans fluid long enough. It should slip right off. We'll pop it onto the new filter and shove it right back on that tube. So not a big deal. Just keep in mind that O-ring is going to work. Save it for the next guy. So that went pretty easy. I just took a little hook and popped the old one out, popped it onto the new one, and now here we got our Overdrive all opened up, nice and clean. I'm going to have to give it one more wipe down before we put this gasket on. But this guy just slips right onto our tube here. Give it a good push. I'm going to have to do that one off camera, but it's fairly straightforward. Let's move on. So after about 30 attempts to get this guy back on, it's not quite working so well. It looks like our old seal here has gotten a little bit soft, so every time I try to pop it on, that seal ends up getting inverted on itself and popping into the filter. So I had this idea. I'm going to stick it in the freezer for about 20 minutes here, and hopefully that hardens it up and allows me to put this thing back on. Then we get to refilling everything. So just for the record, I'm not absolutely crazy. That little trick with the freezer worked perfectly. So now we got all this back together. I'm going to give it a final wipe down, spray down the gasket with some high tack, and we're going to piece this baby back together before we refill it. Should be a lot of fun. So we come back around to the other side of this Overdrive transmission, and here we have our fill plug. It's a 9/16, just like all the other ones. We're going to stick our tube in here and fill it just like the other side. And then we're going to put it back together and finish our thermostat. So we got the Overdrive pan back on, and it's sealing up real nice. I'm going to let that kind of sit for a few minutes before I fill it. And I'm going to start working on the coolant. So the first thing I did was I took off the clamp for the lower hose down here, drained it. The upper hose wasn't even really attached. I didn't even have to loosen it up. Just pulled it right off. Not supposed to be like that. Make sure you tighten everything up when you do a job like this. I'm going to try to sneak in here, pop this water outlet off, and I'm going to see if we can pop a thermostat out. Let's get going. Well, they definitely don't give you a whole lot of room to work, but if you got small fingers like me, you might be able to pull this off without taking off the entire manifold. So just kind of ease it out. Try not to snap any vacuum lines in the process. We're going to swap this baby out. Should be nothing to it. You just make sure the new one goes in the same direction that the old one went. We pop it back together. So we're moving right along now. I put a little bit of RTV on our water outlet here. Of course, this is after I cleaned all the surfaces up. Now, we don't have a lot of room to work here, so I'm going to be tightening this up about 1/8 of a turn at a time until she's nice and tight. This might take a while. Let's continue on. Now that our water outlet's all back together, we're going to reattach our hoses and fill her up. Alright, so we got everything back together. All we got left is to add some coolant. I did a little mixture, 50-50, regular ethylene glycol. You get one of these fancy doodads here, and you look for bubbles. You're basically going to want to run the engine with the heat on until you have heat coming out of the vents, and these bubbles should stop. And then we're ready to drive her away. But once you're all done, you drive away. Thanks for watching. More to come.